Hello, everyone. Welcome to another class of your Women in Gender Studies course. I'm your professor, Dr. Maldonado. Let's get started. So this week, we'll be examining embodiment, beauty, and the viewer. Now, we're going to introduce changing styles in fashion, gendered beauty politics, and also settling insecurities, both within yourself and with other people. So let's check out this video. So there is a YouTube link provided to this video where you'll see how Black fashion has changed throughout the 20th century. And I want you to be able to think about these questions. How was femininity informed by clothing over the past century? How was masculinity informed by clothing? And also think about the utility of clothing and how that changed throughout the years. Now, throughout this presentation, we're going to be, again, examining beauty, and beauty is often this visual and albeit internal factor, but we're going to be talking about the visual politics, especially as it's informed by gender. So there are going to be several links that you'll be provided with in a separate Word document that links you to the videos that are assigned to be watched for this week. And I want you to look at those just so that this lecture won't be too long. The lecture will be split up into the videos. So with this video, you'll look at 100 years of Black American fashion to see how fashion was both informed by gender, ethnicity, class, and also the utility of the clothing, meaning the function of the clothing and what it allowed people to do. Was it form-fitting clothing, loose-fitting clothing, lighter clothing, darker clothing, and the fabric of clothing? Clothing has functions. If you're wearing form-fitting clothing, that means it'll be comfortable to wear without working. However, if you were to wear form-fitting clothing while working, that'll be more uncomfortable because your body is more restrained. So if you are working a manual labor job, you'll wear more likely loose-fitting clothing in comparison to form-fitting clothing. However, if you are working in a sit-down office area, or if you're a professor, or if you're an office worker, or if you're at a sit-down sedentary position, form-fitting clothing wouldn't be too much of a hassle there because you're not moving as much in comparison to manual labor. So that just provides an example of how clothing can be functional across workspace and also when it comes to gender as well, because men are expected more so than women to wear looser fitting clothing in comparison to form fitting clothing. And also when it comes to the particular class of a man or a woman or a person who is genderqueer, the types and styles of clothing can also differ as well. So those are all the things that you'll be seeing in this video. So go ahead and check it out. Now, we're going to take some time to talk about you. What do you admire the most about yourself? This is the time to brag. So think about what you love the most about yourself and why. Make sure to write it down and put it in places where you can easily see, such as the corner of your TV screen, the corner of your computer screen, on your desk, on the bathroom mirror, etc. What do you love the most about yourself? Now, I also want you to think about compliments. Unfortunately, in our society, giving compliments that are positive are not necessarily normative. If anything, is seen as unwanted or creepy in comparison to giving constructive feedback, meaning more negative or solution-oriented critiques. Right? That's more normative and receptive in our society. And that's a shame because we should be more inclined to give positive compliments than continuous suggestions for improvement or critiques about one another, what people can do better, right? So I want you to think about this. How does it feel to give genuine compliments to another person? How does it feel to receive compliments? Does it feel good? Does it not feel good? Why your answer for both of those questions? Think about that. Are there gender dynamics in there? Are there class considerations that you want to consider? Think about that. Now, I want you to think about how beauty standards can differ across region, country, community, and family. What do you consider the ideal beauty standard in comparison to society's beauty standards? I want you to think about how you negotiate this standard for ideal beauty versus corporality, which is a fancy word for your body. Also, what do you think about people who modify themselves to fit within various standards of beauty, such as undergoing invasive cosmetic procedures, where they can alter the shape of their face, their nose, even their height? What do you think about that? Considering that fashion trends and also beauty trends change throughout time and over time, is that necessarily a wise thing to do? Is it a question of being wise, or is it more of a question of personal desire and how you want yourself to look? Think about that. Now, beauty standards. Let's go further into this construct. Who or what determines what is beautiful? Society, right? The individuals that make up a particular society. People come together and make up these symbols and images of what people should aspire to look like. Often, these idealized images don't exist in everyday life. Think about the billboards that you see in television ads or out in the street while you're driving on the highway. You see these pictures of beautiful people, but often these billboards are photoshopped. The people pictured on these billboards are not even real. Yes, they're models that have taken photos. However, their lighting has been altered, the shape of their nose, the corners of their eyes, the flip of their lip. Everything has been digitally altered to appear even more beautiful. So, this ideal beauty standard and how we think about it and what's projected into our images that we receive every day in real life does not exist. It's a digital image that has been compartmentalized and continuously edited over different people and over the years to fit these changing beauty standards. So I want you to think about that. What's considered beautiful in this specific society won't necessarily be considered beautiful in another society. What's considered beautiful in another society won't necessarily be considered beautiful in this given society. Beauty standards change throughout time, place, and from person to person. So, with this, it just simply regurgitates what has already been said. Because again, there are different types of people, different groups of people. They have different ideologies and investments in what they think is beautiful or not beautiful. And again, that varies over time, space, region, and culture. So this is another video that shows you how there are cultural beauty standards that vary throughout
Take
time. Okay. So I want you to watch this video and think about that and observe how beauty changes over time and throughout culture. So can beauty standards become colonized? Defend your answer. What do we mean by colonized beauty standards? So this video goes into various ways in which beauty has been colonized, particularly in colonized nations. So you have white transatlantic colonization that plays a major part into what particular given societies consider beautiful, right? So you may have an African woman, as depicted here on the screen. However, within a colonized nation, unfortunately, she may not be considered beautiful by mainstream society. Why? Because their culture, their beliefs, and also their ideals of beauty has been largely impacted and influenced by colonization. So when you have a foreign entity, and let's say, oh, white colonizer, so you have a foreign entity that's a white colonizer, they're going to inject their beliefs, their standards, their beauty ideals into that colonized nation. So let's say you have a colonized nation and they have a company, a beauty company that specializes in marketing. And they have this image of the same African woman who's depicted here on the screen. They may use their marketing in order to lighten the shade of her skin, also to angle the shape of her nose, and to thin out the shape of her lips, and all to fit Eurocentric beauty standards. They wouldn't leave her as is, unfortunately, because her beauty is more aligned with Afrocentric features. And Afrocentric features within the Eurocentric paradigm, unfortunately, may not be considered as beautiful as Eurocentric features. So that's just one example of how beauty and beauty ideals can be colonized by emphasizing traditionally Eurocentric features on Eurocentric people and also on non-Eurocentric folks, so people of color. So I want you to think about, what did you learn from the videos and how European imperialism and also colonization impact beauty standards across Black communities and other communities of color. Because it's not just Black communities who are impacted and influenced by Eurocentric beauty standards, it's also mostly other colonized nations as well. Now, this is a video that examines people's insecurities. And I definitely want to give a soft trigger warning because it can definitely be triggering for those who suffer with image dysphoria or beauty dysphoria. So the premise of the video is that you have different strangers facing one another, and they're talking to the strangers as if they're talking about themselves or talking to themselves in the mirror. So you have one girl who is saying, "Oh, you're too dark, your hair's too short and nappy, etc., etc." And the target who is being told those things, who's acting as a mirror to the person saying these things, just it's clear on their facial expression, their affect is completely disheartened, saddened, because these are awful things that this person is saying to them, but it's actually how they feel about themselves. And the person who once acted as the mirror returns the favor with talking to the other person as if they're talking about themselves. And they say horrid things to that other person that reflects how they feel exactly about themselves. And the other person can't believe it. You wake up and you talk to yourself this way, or you think about yourself this way. So the point of the video is to share these insecurities out loud, to show you, the speaker, how horrid you may actually be sounding about yourself. It's critically important to speak about yourself and to speak to yourself as affirmatively and as positively as possible, so that you can grow your love for yourself and or even start that self-love journey for yourself. It's critically important to living a satisfactory and abundant life. You have to treat yourself as if you love yourself, as if you're your best friend, because how you feel about yourself impacts how you feel about and treat others. You can only go as deep into a relationship with another person as you go as deep into a relationship with yourself. You cannot love another person if you do not love yourself, because self-love is the foundation, that's the bedrock of any other relationship that you may have with other people. So it's critically important that you love yourself and you respect yourself and you give yourself grace to continue learning throughout your journey. Because we're all on this journey, albeit individual, and some folks have collective journeys, but ultimately you're on an individual journey, and you have to make sure that you pack yourself with as much genuine and sincere self-love as possible. And that's a continuous journey every single day. It does not stop. Okay. All right. So now, when we talk about beauty and beauty ideals, often the discourse is surrounding men and it's surrounding women and femininity. Not much attention is paid to men and how men often feel about themselves when it comes to beauty and standards of handsomeness, right? So definitely gender has to be analyzed within this discourse, because often these conversations around men's beauty ideals go to the wayside or are discarded in favor of women's beauty ideals, and how beauty images impact women and standards impact women in comparison to men. So this video shows you about how Men conceptualize not only their self-love, but also their self-beauty standards when it comes to having muscles or not having muscles, equating muscularity with fitness and healthiness. However, many come to realize that even though they have photoshopped themselves to appear more hegemonically masculine in the physical sense, they still weren't necessarily satisfied with what they saw in the mirror. If anything, they got this short-term feeling of glee. Wow, look how I look, and it's different. However, they quickly realized that it wasn't necessarily realistic because to achieve this unrealistic body standard, they'll have to spend less time doing things that they actually really enjoy, that they currently do now, such as spending quality time with their families, or spending time with their friends and going out to eat, or working on important projects for their internship or for their job. They would have to spend less time doing that and more time in the gym trying to reach this ideal beauty standard that does not necessarily exist. Because oftentimes, even for men, you have these not realistic, but unrealistic beauty standards or advertised beauty standards that are actually still photoshopped, such as having more defined muscles, larger body mass, etc. Even for men, even more angular facial jaw structures. Often those things are also photoshopped, not real, right? So we always have to keep in mind as to what's marketed to us. It's not always achievable. Why? Because most of the time it does not exist. Again, the common core here and root is self-love. Okay. So now we're going to do a ceremonial burial. I remember the first time I did this in my class. It was really relieving for many of my students because they had the chance and opportunity to collectively, as a group, write down their insecurities on a piece of paper. And they spent a lot of time doing so. And then once they all finished, we all got up and chanted the following chant, ripped up and threw that paper away. So let's do it together online. Consider this a ceremonial burial of your insecurities. So I want you to do this. Write your insecurities down on a piece of paper, all of them, each one that you can think of, especially the ones that immediately come to mind. Take some time to do that and pause this video. So after you get done writing those down, I want you to chant the following. These insecurities are not my own. They are projections of society that are irrelevant to me. I am beautiful, I am attractive, and I am desirable not only to myself, but to other people as well, but mostly to myself. I love myself, I love how I look, and I love how I feel about me. So I cast away these false insecurities and continue to cherish me and all that I am. Now, tear that paper up and throw it away. Okay? The paper with all of your insecurities. And that's the ceremonial burial that we'll end off with for today's lecture. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I look forward to talking with you next week.